Oh, it's Matthew McConaughey, a disaster movie based on a true story. He has to save these children to redeem himself. I had no chance of resisting this film's sweet, naughty temptations.
It's not too late.
There's just an occasional time as you wade through the depths of cinema throughout the year, all the new stuff coming out, that you suddenly poke your head up, and this is one of those films that makes you poke your head up and you go, wait a second, what's going on here? What happened to true story disaster films? They were such a rage in the 2010s, and they were incredible, and it just vanished, and this is honestly the first, good one that I think I've seen this decade. The Lost Bus stars Matthew McConaughey as an absolute loser, major one, living back in his hometown, driving a school bus, bad at his job, bad at being a dad, just not having a good time at all. One day a wildfire springs up in the hills near his town, and he is tasked with getting about 20 kids out of a school and just driving them to a school on the other side of town, just as a precaution. However, by the time that they've realized actually the entire town needs to be evacuated, his radio's out, his phone is out, they can't contact him, and it's too late. And by the time he gets to the other school, it's on fire and everyone else is left, and he just has to try and get these kids out of the town, and it's already basically too late. Oh my god. Just deliver that straight into my eyeballs, man. Inject it. This is a fantastic film. It is immediately into my top 5 of the year. I won't even try to hide how much of a sucker I am for disaster films at times, especially when they're just true story ones done well. You're talking Only the Brave, Deepwater Horizon, Patriots Day. These were all amazing films. I really loved it last decade, and we haven't had anything like that this decade. We've barely had any disaster films. Greenland, which was made by Paul Greengrass, same as this, and Twisters last year. Those are the only big two that were really good that I can think of. I feel like you used to get great disaster films all the time. I guess just as cinema, or as big budget cinema moves more and more towards franchises, disaster films are by their nature almost always standalones. So I guess, yeah, that's what happens. But it is sad because I just love these. I think they're the original, get your blood pumping so hard in your chest that your eyes start to water kind of movies. And even more so when it's a true story. You're just sitting there at times in this film, clenched so hard in your chair you could shit and not even realize it. And for entire, 15-minute sequences. It's awesome. Overall, as a film, it's great. Matthew McConaughey and America Ferrera, both their characters are kind of vaguely simplistic. It's the traditional kind of, he's a bad dad, so he's got to save these kids to redeem himself instead of going and saving his kid. But, he can't. What is he going to do? And she is the small town teacher who's never left her small town and thinks about traveling, but it's too late now because she's going to burn alive. Or is she? Yeah. So the characters are simplistic. The writing is good, but it is just focused on what it's doing. And that's miraculous, given that it's got a 2-hour 10 runtime. I was worried about that going in. That's long, but it uses it well. This film is a thrill ride. It has the traditional types of stories for its characters, but it doesn't need to do more than that. And the only way I can think to explain that is that it really is like a roller coaster ride. If you go on a roller coaster ride, there's some backstory or there's some whatever going on maybe to it as you walk in the queue, but that's what you're doing when you're in the queue. You're like, oh yeah, this is cool. This is a time passer. In a disaster film, in a great disaster film, you just want them to dive in. And this film does. I think the wildfire broke out within 15 minutes of the film starting. And then you have all these people up in the hills trying to evacuate people, trying to fight it early on, talk about what they're going to do. And that whole process was fascinating to me. And it had its own really thrilling sequences and moments in that opening half hour before it kind of let the shit hit the fan before the shit hit the fan for McConaughey and all the people in the town. And I thought that was great. That is just how it happened, of course, but I think that just sets up so well to keep the film rolling throughout the first act, which can be a challenge for disaster films. And after that, once it really gets going, my goodness, glued to my seat, absolutely. I was lucky because somehow we've reached the point with the disaster films like this that are this good that they're getting dumped on Apple TV after 1 week in cinemas. I was lucky to get a showing in, and I'm so glad I did. Find the biggest screen you can to see this on. I just can't recommend this enough. It's very cinematic. which is crazy to me for an Apple TV film, I guess. But the true story itself is also crazy, and the fact that they had McConaughey doing it, oh man, the tension just of some of those scenes, especially later in the film, some of those sequences left me feeling like I just needed a cigarette after that. Like, I'm just like, oh, I'm wiped out by this film. It was really nuts, and I really genuinely think it is probably like 4th or 5th favorite film of the year for me. It's right up there. I thought this was just so good, and I'm admittedly a bit of a sucker for this kind of film, but who isn't? Who's looking at these kind of disaster sequence scenes going like, come on, man. I'm giving The Wheels on the Bus go, 4.5 stars. You go back every decade, there's been like so many great disaster films going back to like the 70s. I just don't think it's going to be like that much longer. I think because franchises have taken over so much, nobody wants the risk of like a standalone disaster film, and it really breaks my heart.